to be talking about the evolution of the monetary system. The monetary system is a system of foreign exchange that involves the regulation, distribution, and use of a nation's currency. This is important because it ensures that the economy stays balanced in all aspects. It continues to change as the state of the economy continues to shift and change. Since the beginning, the monetary system has drastically evolved, going through 5 stages of evolution. These include bimetallism, the classical gold standard, the interwar period, the Bretton Woods system, and the flexible exchange rate regime. Before the 1870s, many countries adopted bimetallism, where both gold and silver were used as an international method of payment. In the United States, bimetallism was adopted by the Coinage Act of 1792. The Coinage Act was a regulation passed by Congress to establish the design of coins in the U.S. dollar as the country's standard unit of currency. This enabled the exchange of paper money for its value in silver or gold. Some benefits of bimetallism were that the supply of money increased because both gold and silver coins were cast out freely and allowed to circulate throughout the economy. This led to a healthy economy because it prompted international trade. However, there were problems with bimetallism because it required a standard exchange rate, meaning that gold and silver had to have the same value across all countries. This was unattainable because each country has their own rate of exchange for silver and gold. For example, gold could be worth $20 in England and $30 in the United States. Countries that used the bimetallic standard would experience Gresham's law, as the value of coins for changing overvalued currency would remove undervalued currency out of motion in the economy, as new coins with less metal quantity had less market value, compared to old coins. Although under the law it was required to treat both coins as equal value. For example, newly discovered gold caused the value of gold to decrease. In some countries, this caused gold to be overvalued. And here I included a chart which compares the amount of gold and silver in dollars from 1878 to 1896. This chart shows the rise and fall of gold and silver in the United States. The classical gold standard was around during 1875 to 1914. The gold standard was a system where certain countries fixed the value of their money in regards to a specified amount of gold. This means that a country's money could be converted into gold at an arranged price. Under the gold standard, the exchange rate between two currencies would be decided by their gold contents. For example, if gold is 8 pounds per ounce and 1 ounce of gold is 16 francs, the exchange rate between the two currencies would be adjusted to 2 francs per pound. This ensures that the exchange rate remains balanced, as different countries have different currencies. If a disarrangement occurs, the exchange rate would be automatically corrected by cross-border movement of gold. This stabilized prices and helped prevent inflation because banks were not able to change the supply of money. The gold standard was suspended in 1914 during the start of World War I, as government finances decreased. And here's a chart that shows the debt to the production of goods in each country over the years. From the chart, you can see that debt decreased around the start of the gold standard, but rapidly increased for most countries around 1914, continuously increasing around 1952 post-war. Going back to the gold standard, the interwar period was a time when countries attempted to restore the gold standard, as many countries began to heal from World War I and balance their economies. The United States was able to abandon limitations on gold transport and return to the gold standard in 1919, followed by Great Britain, Switzerland, France, and the Scandinavian countries. After returning to the gold standard, many countries followed a policy of sterilization of gold by controlling the effects of gold transports. However, there were rules set in order for the gold standard to be stable, which they did not follow. These rules and regulations consisted of maintaining the conversion of currency to gold at a fixed price, raising interest rates while decreasing money supply if losing gold, and decreasing interest rates while increasing money supply if gaining gold. These rules were set out so that countries could cooperate with one another, but because they did not follow these rules, the exchange rate dysregulation could not be automatically corrected and the gold standard was no longer functioning. With the issues that arose from the start of restoring the gold standard, it eventually broke down during the stock market crash and the start of the Great Depression. All countries using the gold standard began to suffer economically, with declines in their assets and monetary values, and by 1936 the gold standard was completely left behind. This left the economy with no functioning monetary system, which had many negative effects on the international trade and investment. And here's a chart that shows the gold stock during the policy of the sterilization of gold, which includes the monetary base, the gold stock, and the non-sterilized gold stock. In 1944, representatives came together at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire to create and design the international monetary system post-war. The international Monetary Fund was officially started in 1945 and included a strict set of rules regarding the monetary policies. Representatives signed the Articles of Agreement, which included the cooperation, operations, rights, and obligations of its members. One of the many aspects of the Bretton Woods system that representatives took into consideration was the prevention of lacking following the rules, which was what caused the downfall of the interwar period. This is why the Articles of Agreement was very important in the development of a new monetary system. Under the Bretton Woods system, each country established a face value relative to the US dollar, which was pegged to gold at $35 an ounce, as the US dollar became the dominant world currency. Countries used US dollars and gold as an international method of payment, while the US dollar was the only currency fully convertible to gold, which was known as a dollar-based gold exchange standard. Each country was also required to keep their exchange rate within 1% of the acquired face value by buying and selling foreign exchanges when needed. Although the face value was established from the start, a country with a lack of stability was able to make adjustments in the face value of its currency. During the Bretton Woods system, there were many proposals, two of which were from John Maynard Keynes and Harry Dexter White. John Keynes created a clearing union with the belief that public organizations should be allowed to intervene in times of tribulation. The clearing union consisted of a reserve asset called banker, which was used to solve international imbalances, as countries could obtain banker by withdrawing funds through the clearing union. Harry Dexter White proposed a currency pool where countries could make contributions as well as borrow when experiencing balance of payment deficits. Both proposals supported a stable exchange rate and were included in the Articles of Agreement. They ensured stability and safety for the economy if anything were to go wrong. The Bretton Woods system had many benefits, as countries could save on transaction costs with transporting gold, as well as using foreign exchanges as a method of payment, which led to the growth of international trade and investment. However, Robert Triefin, an economist, cautioned that the system was likely to fail over time. In early 1960s, the total value of U.S. gold stock, which was initially valued at $35 an ounce, failed to meet foreign dollar holdings, which were reserve assets held by central banks. This created a lack of trust in the dollar-based system. In 1965, the Federal Reserve created the Foreign Credit Restraint Program, which managed the quantity of dollars the U.S. banks were allowed to lend to multinational companies involved in foreign investments. To help with the problems associated with the dollar, the International Monetary Fund created an international reserve called the Special Drawing Rights. The Special Drawing Rights was initially planned to weigh the average of the 16 currencies whose country shares in the world exports were greater than 1%. The stability of the SDR made a popular and reliable currency for international contracts. And on the right is a picture of the design of the gold exchange system, with the US dollar in the center, surrounded by other currencies included in the exchange rates. Efforts to support the dollar continued but turned out to be unsuccessful with the rising inflation in the United States. The US dollar was deemed overvalued and no policy could help solve the issues. In 1971, President Richard Nixon discontinued the convertibility of the dollar into gold and created a 10% import overcharge. This violated the basics of the Bretton Woods system and led to its destruction. This created a lot of anxiety in the economy as the system was failing. The Smithsonian Agreement was then created by 10 major countries trying to save the system. This agreement included that the price of gold was increased by $3, so instead of $35, it was switched to $38. Countries also changed their currency by up to 10% to match the US dollar, and the bandwidth the exchange rates were able to move was changed from 1% to 2.25%. This agreement lasted for a little while, but over time could not withstand the devalue of the US dollar. After many attempts to support the dollar, the price of gold was then raised from $38 to $42 an ounce, leading to the end of the Bretton Woods system. And here's a chart of the Special Drawing Rights, which weighs the average of the different currencies in a currency basket. The flexible exchange rate regime started in 1973 and is still implemented today. The flexible exchange rate was established under the Jamaica Agreement, which consisted of new rules for the monetary system, including a floating system of exchange rates where different currencies flowed against each other, with intervention to stabilize the rate of exchange, as well as the abolishment of gold as an asset. The International Monetary Fund was conscious of the nations that were struggling and used the proceeds of gold that was sold to help support them. They were also given significant access to funds. They also provided loans to member countries as long as they followed their macroeconomic policy of keeping the structure of the economy balanced. Contrary to the decline in the dollar's value throughout the time of the Bretton Woods system, the dollar began to increase in value between 1980 and 1985. This was during Reagan's presidency, as the Reagan administration led to a growing U.S. and balance of payment deficit. The interest rates increased in the United States as the increasing demand for dollars by foreign investors increased its value throughout the exchange market. The dollar reached its maximum value in 1985 and gradually decreased until it plateaued in 1988. The Plaza Accord was then established due to the issues with the high trade deficit in the U.S. The Plaza Accord consisted that the dollar could decrease in value against other currencies and that other countries could be decisive in the exchange market. However, the decline of the dollar worried countries, and that is when the G7 countries, including Germany, France, Canada, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the United States, established the Louvre Accord. Under this arrangement, exchange rates increased in stability, and by the late 1990s, the US dollar increased in value, which caused foreigners to invest majorly in the US, resulting in a successful monetary system. And here's a picture that explains the new rules that were established under the Jamaica Agreement at the start of the flexible exchange rate regime. Overall, the monetary system has gone through a lot of trial and error as it's evolved. From researching the evolution of the monetary system, I was able to learn more about the history of the economy during each time period and all the changes made that led to the monetary system today.